Actually, it was crazy. I mean, being Canadian, coming from the Rocky Mountains, I've never been colder at a start line than on a beach in Australia.
Whoa.
What? Hey, how's it going?
I'm all right.
It's January.
Oh, it's freezing outside.
Sure is.
But hey, let's not talk about the weather.
Let's not.
Let's talk about all the good things happening in GottaRunRacing.
Yeah, working on our new races. First one's coming up in May.
Wow. The Lost Treasure Trail Race. That's a tongue twister.
LTTR. Up in Mansfield, Ontario.
Yeah, that's going to be a cool one because it's about Jesse James' lost treasure.
Yeah, you got to check out the story behind it on our website.
And there's a YouTube video about what it's all about.
Yeah. And then we got, following that, Fiddle 50 in Shelburne.
Anything 50.
Half 50?
50. Okay. 50
50.
mile.
50 times 2.
Times 2. There's too many 50s.
A lot of loops.
Okay.
All right. And then, of course, our Rainbow Trail Run will be getting off the ground this year for sure.
Finally.
In Alliston.
Yeah, that's going to be up to 100 miles. And everything in between.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we have Island Lake Classic and Chase a Coyote. And virtuals for all.
Yep.
As well, our We Run the North celebrating Canada's national parks.
Still going. And
Still
Monarch.
going. And Monarch.
Still going.
You got it.
There you go.
All right, who's on the podcast today?
Mike Jolie from Calgary, Alberta.
And he's part of our Canadian Trail to Western States 2022.
He's a lucky guy because
Ooh.
he got in 3 years, so 4 tickets.
Yeah, pretty lucky.
It is lucky. But his journey to Western States, I think, is awesome because he did it 2 of his tickets. Well, one Australia, one in New Zealand. That's epic.
It is epic.
So I can't wait to hear about those specific races.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then he's going to be at Squaw this year. So I can't wait to talk to him. Maybe run with him for a while. Who knows?
Who knows?
There's
He's got a few years on you.
Yeah. So maybe we'll hike up this ski hill together.
And then that'll be the end of it.
That's
You
it.
see him at the finish line.
Bye, Mike. See you a couple hours later.
All right, let's get to it.
Yeah, Mike Jolie coming up.
Mike Jolie from Calgary, Alberta. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Did you run today?
No, not today. Today is luckily a rest day because it's about -30 out. So
That means
I'm
it's coming
pretty
to
happy.
Ontario.
yeah, it's been a brutal week. We had a really good fall, and then the last 2 weeks, like winter's truly hit here. So
So you got into Western States with only 4 tickets.
What is
I
that?
know.
3 years? Is that?
Yeah, 3 years. I guess like 4 with the COVID year, no racing, but so 3 races, 4 tickets. I was so surprised. Like I had no idea. I was actually in the middle of a long run, and it was the exact moment I went down on to change the podcast on my phone, and my friend texted me, "You got in," and I couldn't believe it. Like in the middle of a park, just like started screaming because I knew my whole year has changed after that.
Right.
I was already planning on doing another ticket race, the Sean O'Brien in Malibu in February. But now I'm like, okay, I don't need to do that. Like, cancel that and I'll focus on Western States. So,
Are your running friends still talking to you after getting in with only 4?
yeah, I think hopefully one of them becomes my pacer. But they're definitely jealous, especially the ones with more tickets than me.
Right. Are they clamoring to be a pacer, or had you already made that decision?
I've got one. I know a couple I haven't asked yet, but I know they would like to. I got one I want to come. He's just undecided on his family, and I got another friend from New Zealand who really wants to come, depending on border. issues. Because I paced her when she did her first miler. So she promised if I do a miler, then she'll pace me. I think she expected me to never do a miler. So,
so before we get into all Western states, let's talk about the beginning, how you even got into running at all.
Yeah, sure. I know I was trying to think about that this week. So I ran track and cross country in high school, and I was decently okay, like pretty good, not bad, not the best. And then I kind of stopped. And then one year, for some reason, I forget how, it might have been a bet, like I decided to run a marathon. Went terribly. Didn't know what I was doing. Went good for the first 25K, and then went terribly. And then the next year I decided, well, I'm going to do the 50K because the Calgary Marathon started doing the 50K. So I'll do the ultra. There won't be that many people that do that. And didn't know what I was doing, but I definitely ran a lot more. Thought I was much more prepared. And but like I had crazy stomach issues that day, and it was terrible. I had to make at least 8 or 10 stops. But I finished the race. I finished, I think a little bit over, like close to 5.5 hours or something like that.
Nice.
That's okay.
Yeah, I know. I actually had to recheck on it. But the timing wasn't as bad as I remember. And then I really started to get trail running was in New Zealand. And that was actually because right before my company transferred me over there in 2017 to 2019.
Nice.
Right before I moved over there, I broke my wrist skiing. And so I couldn't ski, I couldn't mountain bike, I couldn't rock climb, couldn't do all the other things I used to do. So I started running because it was the only thing I could do. And I was placed in this town called Rotorua, where the Tarawera Ultra Marathon is based. And I was running one day, and a guy I worked with in that town like saw me running, caught up to me, and was like, "Hey, like, we're part of a running club. We're having a beer after the run. Like, why don't you come join us?" So I had one beer with the Rotorua Trail Running Club, and then they're like, "Oh, you should join our club." And I was like, I didn't know anyone at all. So I joined the club, and then I just met all these crazy people who were running long distances, and I started running with them, made a bunch of friends, and I got hooked on it. From 2017 on.
Well, how can you not in New Zealand, which is the mecca of adventure sports, right?
Exactly.
I know. It was great. Yeah.
Wow.
Once I saw the Tarawera race, how big it was, I'm like, oh, I want to do that next year. So I was aware of Western states. I didn't really know about the process. So I was already planning on signing up for that next year, but I wanted to do it well. So I signed up for 100K before that. And then people started talking about Western states. And like, then I found out, oh, well, okay, I'm already signed up for 2 different ticket races. Maybe I should try to get into this race long term. The first one I ended up doing was a Surf Coast Century in September. And south of Melbourne on Bells Beach.
Yeah, I looked that one up. It looks stunning. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose that race?
So I had some friends that run a training group called Squad Run for Tarawera, and they also do it in Australia for Surf Coast Century. So I knew they were going over there, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's like an easier, flatter 100K course. It'd be a good tune-up for Tarawera." I also wanted to travel to Australia while I was living in New Zealand, so I thought that'd be a good introductory race to go.
Right.
And the timing fit too. Like if I ran in September, then I have a couple months, including Christmas, holidays, to get ready for Tarawera, which I was planning to do in 2019.
Okay.
So the Surf Coast, what month was that race?
Late September.
Late September. Okay.
Yeah, of 2018.
And how did it go? So that was your first 100K.
Yeah. How was that whole experience? How'd you feel at the start line?
Actually, it was crazy. I mean, being Canadian, coming from the Rocky Mountains, I've never been colder at a start line than on a beach in Australia.
Whoa.
What?
Yeah, I know. It was wild. It was essentially freezing rain, sideways wind, on the start line. And I'm like,
That
I'm in
sounds like our
Australia
trip.
on a beach. Like this doesn't make sense.
No, that's not normal for that time of year because that's spring, right?
Yeah, no, it wasn't normal at all. And
Yeah.
then midway in the race, it was like 25 degrees and I was sweating.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the start line was cool. Everyone was freezing, kind of huddling together on a beautiful beach. Like this is one of like the best surfing beaches in the world, I guess.
Right.
And the first like 20K is all along this hard, wet, compacted sand. It was absolutely stunning. And you'd run around these head walls. Sometimes like the ocean would be like hitting you.
Oh, the surf. Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's the only time I knew I had to change my shoes after like during a race because there's so much sand in it. But it was awesome. It was sunrise too. So it was a beautiful race.
Wow.
Which is another reason why I chose it too.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to finish this race?
I think it's about 12:20. I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it went really well for the first 90K.
Well, there's only 10 left. What happened in the last 10K?
I think I got a little like confident about how well it was going. Like I didn't expect it to go this well. And then I think once I hit like 10 hours, my stomach just wasn't used to gels anymore.
You were doing gels?
Ooh, real food.
Yeah. And not good gels either, like cheap. Yeah, gels. I'm not going to say the brand, but.
So were you having second thoughts at the end of this 100K? Like.
Yeah. So the last 10K, a lot of it was really soft sand too.
Oh no.
So like my energy levels were low. The sun went down and then it was like trudging through soft sand. I remember I got to the end. I'm like, 100K is way too long. Like 50-miler tops. Like that's the perfect distance.
How'd you feel at the end? Then you hobbled home or?
Luckily I did have some friends there and they got me some potatoes and warmed me up because it started raining again at the finish line. I took like an hour and then I was able to hobble home and get into bed. And luckily I had all my food all planted around my bed even before I left in the morning.
I guess none of this was at night because 12 hours, sunrise. So the sunset's about the same time, 6:00.
It was basically sunrise to sunset. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I finished 10 minutes after the sun went down.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible.
So let's talk Tarawera. How did you feel, or the training going into it? How did you feel that this race was coming up pretty quick after the last one?
The training was interesting because I started like racing a lot and doing a lot of like big adventurous runs in New Zealand with my friends there. Like New Zealand has like 9 or 8 what they call like great walks, and they're really tough to book. So what we would do is plan and run them all in one day instead, which was a great way to see the best parts of New Zealand.
Right.
Like Rupert and Milford Sound, Northern Circuit of Tongariro and Lake Waiakamarana. So I was almost a little bit overtrained heading into the Christmas break, which was good because then it forced me to take a bit of a break. I took a 3-week road trip and I just hiked for 2 weeks straight and got tons of elevation on the South Island where there are more mountains, and kind of did everything by feel. And then I healed up a bit. I felt a ton better. And heading into January, my training was really on point. Like I felt really good. I felt really fast. I had a bit of a training program from a coach. And then that one friend, Keely Henniger, who's a pro, she'll be at Western States too. She was giving me some help too.
Yeah.
So that combined with just like the excitement and having all my friends and community there, like I had multiple people wanting to crew me. Even at aid stations that crew weren't allowed, they were still like driving their boat along the the lake to like just to like see me. Like I didn't get crew, but so I felt really good, really confident heading into 2019 Tarawera.
Is a lot of the course around the lake?
Yeah. So you'll start in Kaurau and you kind of run 35, 38 kilometers of forestry roads, which is kind of like a nice like warm up.
Yep.
And then you hit the lake and you go all along the northern part of the lake, which is some of the best part of the course. And you see Tarawera Falls, which is beautiful. And then you head north and you run along Lake Okatana, eastern Okatana, and then along western Okatana. And then you kind of enter more of like the Rotorua Blue Lake area, which is along you go through the redwoods.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like lakeside and just beautiful, undulating rainforest. It's my favorite trail in the world still to date, Northern Tarawera.
So many Canadians go do this race.
Oh yeah,
it's worth the trip to do the race, and that's it.
It has to be one of the more popular ticket races because it seems to come out of so many people's mouths that we talk to.
Yeah,
cool.
It's fun. Like the aid stations are crazy. They get a lot of good volunteers. It's loud. They don't let you quit. They don't let you slow down. And it's cool doing like a really fun point to point race too, which is I really like that aspect of it.
And how did your experience compare? So what you learned from Surf City, how did it compare for the second go around?
Oh yeah, it's so much better. I had a great race. I would say almost performed above my ability at times.
Well, that's when you want it to happen.
Yeah.
In the race, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember your time, Mike?
10:52.
Wow.
Nice.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
And it seems like a harder race overall. Do you think?
Yeah. It's like about 3,300 meters of gain, as opposed to about 2,000 in Surf Coast.
And the miler, how is it still point to point, or do they circle back?
The Tarawera miler?
Yeah.
It's one giant circle. It connects in with the 100K, but it starts in Rotorua and makes like a big circle, connects in the 100K course and moves back around.
Nice. So that was 2019. What were you planning for 2020 as your ticket race? Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. It would have been a Canadian race, Lost Souls in Lethbridge.
Okay.
Which is what I ended up doing 2021. Yeah.
So other than Lost Soul, did you have big plans for 2020?
I did. I guess the one thing I did is I went back over to Tarawera to crew and pace my friend for the miler.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's Sue Crowley.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Crowley. Yeah.
Crowley.
Yeah. And she crushed it.
And you also paced. So you ran about 47K, is that right?
Yeah, the last 47K. Yeah, it was a very long day. Because I was up at 4 to see her off. Caught the first couple aid stations. Luckily there was about 30K of maybe 30 to 40K I couldn't reach. So I went back and napped a bit and then got back up and paced her for the end. And it was cool. Yeah, I picked her up and she was 5th or 6th, and we almost caught second place.
Ooh,
wow.
Almost. That's great.
And that's the year that Canadian Else McDonald was on top of the podium.
Do you know her?
Yeah, well, I know who she is. I haven't met her yet, except during the race. It was funny because we were trying to find me and our Dave, Sue's husband, were trying to find an aid station, and we're driving, and we just asked a runner on the road, like, oh, do you know which way to go? And it turns out it was Elsa. In the middle of a race. We had no idea she's like dominating already. She just like stops and we just like starts smiling and started chatting with us. Like, oh yeah, like I think it's this way. It was like that way. I'm like, we're like, sorry, like, we didn't mean you to for you to stop. Like keep running, keep racing. She was just cool, calm, collected. And then later we showed up to the aid station and I was chatting with, I think like Kat Bradley's crew. And she's like, oh yeah, that's Elsa McDonald. Like she's absolutely crushing it. And then, it wasn't until the award ceremony I found out she was from Cochrane.
Wow.
Which is right outside Calgary.
Small world.
And she will be at Squat this year.
Yep.
So you're going to meet her there, right?
Yeah, for sure. We have like friends of friends so like I know who she is, but I just haven't actually ran across her yet.
Well, you can thank her for leading you to the aid station.
Yeah.
From Tarawera.
Oh yeah, I'll see if she remembers us.
Let's talk about your third
final ticket.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, have you been following Western States when you only had 2 tickets, or you figured you're just not going to get in, so let's just keep getting ready?
I figured I'd get in maybe 5 years from now.
Yeah, that's basically what everyone says. Yeah.
So I was just, I don't know. I'll just keep putting tickets in, and if I get in, I'll get in and I'll run. But until then, I won't worry about having to run 100 miles.
But Western States was your goal. You're not going to stop until you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
So let's talk Lost Soul.
Yeah, it was good. It was a long time coming. Because of my injury, I took a really long time just being conservative, and I didn't plan anything else for a while. And then I didn't want to do anything more than 100K. And there wasn't, because of COVID and the lack of ticket races in the area, my options were, I think, Sinister 700 miler, Canadian Death Race, or Lost Soul. So Lost Soul is the shortest one and closest to Calgary,
right?
Too. So I figured I would do that, and I had a couple of friends that have done it before, so they said good things about it.
Definitely.
Well, that's not an easy race, Lost Soul, because you're constantly, what are those? The dunes or something? You're constantly going up and down.
Coulees.
Yeah.
Coulees, they call them. It's brutal. It's
There's no brakes, right? There's no brakes.
No, because it's either completely flat, so you feel guilty if you're not running, or it's just up, straight up and then down. And it's kind of that like dry, dusty, gravelly hills too. Oh. So it's a little like slippery when you're going down. It's the first time I've ever lost toenails. Just like trying to break myself, because you either like bomb the downhills and your quads blow up, and I think that happens to a lot of people in that race, or you break and you smash your toenails. I don't know. It's kind of nice because the last 2 aid state, like, see, it's 2 big loops, and the last 2 sections are quite short, and so you get to see your crew a lot.
Nice.
Which is good. It was a really good introductory crewing experience for my wife. I think it's going to be much harder for her at Western States. She's terrified.
No, tell her not to be, because all the Canadians that we talk to on the podcast, we're going to get all the crews together.
Yeah. And
we're going to have pictures of everybody and bib numbers so that we can all cheer for each other and help each other out, because it's going to be, it's pretty epic. So don't tell her not to worry.
Well, Jolie crewed me several times.
By myself.
So, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah, because Norm, you're running Western States too, right?
Yeah, I finally got in. I had
awesome.
I got in after 6 years, and then add 2 more years of deferrals. So I'll be there at Squaw. Yeah.
Awesome. No, it's going to be great to have a big Canadian contingent there.
It's going to be our most Canadians at Western States at this time because of the deferrals and how many got in this year. And now Western States is going to be your first 100-miler. You're going to be doing a lot of sections at night. How are you going to train for that? Are you going to go out at night and do some running?
That's a good question. Yeah, maybe. No, I probably will have to. Like, I've done a bunch of night running before. Like, I run a night here. I ran a night in the forest in New Zealand all the time. And when my friends were all training for the miler in New Zealand, we did a couple like massive night runs. Like we did something called the Rainbow Run. So it's the redwood forest has colored loops for like the tourists, and we did. It's kind of a local thing where you do all of them in a row, and we did that starting at midnight, just as a training exercise. Like they were doing it from the miler, and I figured it sounded fun, so let's let's do that. But yeah, and that's a good point. It's something I'll probably have to work on, because I am that plus crewing Sue throughout the night in the miler. Like, you really realize how much running at night affects your body, your mind, your digestion.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's going to be the longest race you've done. You're done about 10 to 13 hours, and now you're thinking, I don't know what. That'd be amazing if you could do 100-miler in that, but
like hopefully sub 24, but I'm not putting any like hard times on it yet. I haven't, but yeah, I mean, it would be nice to get that silver buckle.
Yeah.
You're going to be striking Western off your bucket list pretty early in your ultra career. There's got to be a ton more things on there because you're pretty young too. So tell us what are some more of your big goal bucket races?
Yeah, that's a good one. Before I moved back to Calgary and I got married and we're starting to think about having a family. Before that, I was starting to think about UTMB. I'd really like to get into that. I'd say I don't do a lot of like mountain ultras. I haven't done any too many true mountain ultras. So I'd have to get into more of that training.
Right.
I can do that, but that'd be one that's on my list because I've heard the experience. It's like UTMB, but just more people, and I'd love to be in Chamonix during that whole week.
Yes.
I guess Western States would be your first ticket into UTMB then, right?
Yeah.
Funny thing is that this Western States would be your fourth ultra, a trail ultra.
Trail ultra, yeah.
In 4 different countries.
True. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
You're quite the traveler here. So you gotta keep doing ultras in every other country. Just find countries.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, that's a good thing about running and racing is it's a really good excuse for traveling. And
yes.
I heard about the Tarawera by UTMB race that just came out. So I was already thinking like, maybe we can go to Mexico next.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. It was my pleasure.
And good luck with your training for Western.
And we always finish off with a rapid fire.
Before we let you go, we're going to finish off with a rapid fire. And we'll start with a Canadian question. So butter tarts with or without raisins?
With.
Do you have a tattoo?
Yes.
Ah, okay. More than one?
No, just one.
Just one. Okay.
For now.
Yeah, Western might change that, right? Name a food you could eat for a week straight.
Potatoes.
Okay.
I'm interested in the one question. What other sport would you like to excel at?
I was actually when I broke my wrist, I was getting really into like backcountry skiing and ski mountaineering.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I guess skimo. Yeah.
Okay. All right. If you could travel back in time, what period would you go to?
Oh, good question. I don't know. That's a tough one. Maybe like the 1960s, 70s. Like things just seemed a little bit more. It's close enough, but things seemed a little more simpler back then.
Yeah, fair enough. This is a good one because it's probably you have to probably think about it. What's the last concert you went to?
I don't know. Oh, it's been so long. Last one I can remember is I'm blanking because I know I went to like the Chili Peppers and Incubus, but that was so long ago.
Oh, I like Incubus. That's a good 90s.
Name a popular New Zealand band.
No, I don't know a single New Zealand.
You got
Lord,
me on that one too.
I think Lord's from New Zealand.
Oh, that's right. She is.
You're right.
Yeah, she is too.
One more question. Name a superpower that you'd like to have.
That was going to be my last one.
Okay. Name a superpower that you'd like to have.
I'd say like super healing and like regeneration, like Wolverine.
Oh, that's a good one. That we haven't had that one.
No, but I would love to have that one.
We want all the superpowers.
Just keep regenerating my hips back to where they were from 20 years ago.
Every runner would pick something like that because you want to be able to run forever injury free.
Oh, exactly.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mike.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I guess we'll see you at Squaw.
Yeah, we'll talk to you before that for sure. Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Cool.
All right. Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
All right.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye.
And there you have it. Mike Jolie. His first 100-miler is going to be Western States.
Do you know what percentage of runners it's their first 100?
I don't know. I don't know if they have that on the website, but that's interesting. Because
Yeah.
I know that Sarah Seeds, when we chatted with her, that was her also, first 100.
I think that's probably a pretty high stat.
It's a smart stat. Why, let's
Yeah,
do a bunch of 100Ks. Not as far as 100Ks go, there's some difficult ones, there's some easier ones.
Mm-hmm.
But just get your tickets. Get the
Yeah.
Western, make that 100, then go do a bunch of other hundreds.
Exactly.
It's a good strategy.
It is a good strategy.
Yeah.
And I'm so envious of his time in New Zealand.
Oh, I know.
Can't wait to go there.
There ain't nothing wrong there. It's all good.
Except the odd earthquake or two, but yeah, it's all good.
Bring it on. It makes you a better runner.
And he's young. He has youth on his side.
Of course.
Yeah.
He wants to get to UTMB eventually, one day. Why not?
Yeah.
It'll probably take him 3 or 4 years. Lots of time.
Got time. Yeah.
And that was Mike Jolie.
For the full-length version of our chat with Mike, check out our podcast at GottaRunRacing.
Wherever you download your podcasts. Cheers.